There we go. Who else is on here today? Rigel's on here. Who else we got going on? Let's see. Yeah, thanks for being flexible, guys. I was walking a site yesterday and I was like, there's just no way I'll be able to get back. So thanks for working around my schedule. I appreciate it a lot. What's going on with everybody? Talk to me. What's going on with y'all? What's happening?
Hey, Nolan, I just had a really quick question. I was hoping you might be able to help me.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
uh
What's up?
I'm meeting with the tenant of a building that I'm going to be closing on Monday, and they currently are set up with the current sellers to do a wire transfer each month, kind of a thing. And I know like you always recommend doing ACH setups and things like that. And I was looking into that. I see there's like various services and things you can sign up for that'll help kind of facilitate that. I was just curious, what do you use and kind of how like what service do you use to do that, and how do you set that up?
If the business that's you're buying the property from is already servicing, is if they're sending a wire, they're already electronically depositing rent. I wouldn't worry about moving the needle too much. Obviously, just changing the account and routing number to your account. Obviously, the way that I have ACH set up with my accounts is it's just a feature of the online banking. The banks that I think I've told y'all I have debt with Renaissance Bank, Millennial Bank, and West Alabama Bank. And it's just an added feature that I pay for all those accounts. I mean, it's
Oh, okay.
like an extra $15 for like, business banking or whatever.
Okay.
And just talk to your banker about it or whoever you're gonna, whoever sets up your online account. It's probably legitimately like 12 extra bucks a month. And then it will give you that online feature to be able to like submit and make payments through ACH, the automatic clearinghouse, as they would say.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of third party things that are like dedicated to that. I think they're like 20 some bucks a month or whatever. But yeah, I'll look in to see if the bank can do it. I know like right now, basically the tenant on their own will go to the bank. They pay a $40 wire fee.
Oh my
They
gosh.
they wire it manually every time. So it's
Oh.
and it's a little like hit and miss with regards to
Oh,
them
I
making it on
see.
time.
So
So
it's a manual wire that they're doing.
yeah, yeah, they're driving to the
Yeah.
bank, doing it kind of a thing. And so I just wanted to make it easier on both of us, plus just take out that kind of tenant responsibility and put it on my hands kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
1000%. Have I shared with you just like my little ACH form?
No, that'd be great if you could.
So
That'd be awesome.
I'll just share with you what I've got here. So like like for example, let's say this one right here. Like here's just like, and I can share this with y'all so you can have it. It's a very simple little form. Like, I give this person, obviously don't go and take this guy's info. uh, but you see what I'm saying, how like simple it is to, you can draft this with like you can just make this like a chat GPT thing. I put a little header on here, but then you can just submit it through, DocuSign and have them sign it. And then with your online banking, um, pay like it's like $12 or something. And you can charge that back to the tenant, just add that cost
Yeah,
onto the rent, So it's like if it's an extra $20 to pay for the online banking function, it saves them money at that point if they're paying $40 for a wire.
yeah, exactly. I would think they'd
So
be okay with it.
yeah,
All right.
just add that onto this little, page and they'd be probably thrilled to saves them a couple of bucks. And on top of it, it puts you in control, and it
Yep.
makes it automated.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, talk to your bank about that. Just like ask them if they'll give you like a 6 month, demo or something at half price or whatever, and just try and negotiate
Yeah,
with
definitely.
them. They give you.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. What else is everyone working on? Let's see what's happening. Zane, you got any updates for us? Whatever's happening in your world right now?
I mean, noticed some coaching calls with some members. I just got off the phone with Rigel actually earlier today over in California. We're talking about him kind of branching out into different markets and stuff. Rigel, if you don't mind, just kind of like going over like your plan over the next week, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've exclusively been looking in Southern California, mostly like Los Angeles Metro. Going to real estate meetups, meet with brokers, mostly just been finding cap rates are like significantly lower out here than, like the Midwest or Southeast. Which a couple of my CRE like analyst buddies kind of already told me. They're like, yeah, good luck with 10 caps. And pretty much the only 10 caps I've been finding have been like cannabis deals, or anything really above like seven has been some kind of unusual property, I would say, that it doesn't really fit our criteria. So I think I'm gonna start looking and talking more with brokers in Michigan, which is currently where I've done all my residential work, and then also talk with brokers in Alabama, which is where I'm from, which is where I grew up. So that's kind of my strategy now. Most of the brokers I've talked to, like, they're not really listing anything above like a six cap or like 6.5 cap in Southern California. And that's generally considered like less desirable property. Um, so I think it doesn't really fit our needs. I think the market is just too mature in a sense. I don't know, Nolan, if you have looked at buildings out on the West Coast, or just like in a really mature market in general, and kind of what you found in terms of sellers' perspectives.
All right. Well, I'll answer your question with a question. Who knows the answer to Rigel's situation here with six caps? Who has the answer as to the seller's circumstances? Anybody know?
They're not motivated.
Not motivated. And that's what I've discovered is if you got somebody, I mean, like I'll be honest with you too. I've got all of my properties are also for sale right now. I've got them listed at seven caps because I'm not motivated. I'm not, but if somebody wants to have 1031 money, like that's those low cap rates, those suppressed cap rates, Rigel, those are basically buildings for funds, like pension funds, teacher union funds, and 1031 money. Money that has to be placed. If you don't use it, you lose it. Like they're not, and they're priced accordingly. That's what I've discovered. And that's even what one of my mentors has told me. You get anything that's in the low sevens, upper sixes. There's no motivation from the seller, and it's not priced for people like you and me. It's priced for institutional money that has to spend it. Otherwise, they don't get that money next year. So what I've discovered is like the three things that you have to have with to make a really good deal. You got to have motivation, you have to have something wrong with the property, and you have to have a timeline. So if you got a guy that is just retired and he's hanging out on the beach and he doesn't have to sell, and the building is immaculate, you probably don't have a good deal. But if you got a guy that's getting divorced, he has to leave town in 30 days, and there's a leak in the roof, you might have something there. You know what I'm saying? There might be an opportunity if you've got, three different components like that. So that's just what my mentor had told me is like, if you can find some motivation because of, a circumstance, a timeline where he's got to get out or she's got to get out, and then again, there's something wrong with the property, you piece all three of those together, you've got a strong opportunity to close that. You know what I'm saying? So think about those three things whenever you're seeking property. Motivation from the seller for some reason, maybe he's getting divorced, somebody's dying, there's a dissolution with their business partner, something's going on in the background. That happened to another guy in our group about a year ago where he made an offer on a building that was at a six cap. He offered it at like a 9.5. Guy broker told him to kick rocks. And then like 4 months later, the guy came back and said, "Hey, actually, are you still open to buying or just to purchasing? Because my wife just recently got cancer and I don't care at this point. I just want to get out." So his motivation shifted very quickly. Now I don't know, he didn't ever close the deal because for whatever reason. But the point was is that he then had an opportunity because of the motivation from the seller at that point. So if you can think about those three pieces, your opportunity to close dramatically increases with those when you check those three boxes. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I can also start kind of incorporating some of that stuff into like the language I'm using with brokers in terms of like what type of deals I'm looking at, just to try and get closer to what we're looking for.
Yeah. No, one
Hey,
hundred
hey,
percent. And I spoke yesterday with JP, who's another member of our group, and one thing that he mentioned that he's having trouble with, and I think that maybe this can benefit everybody, is he's like, I'm looking at property. I don't, maybe JP's on here. I don't know, but basically, like, I'm looking at property. I'm making an offer, or I'm at least walking property. First, he was talking to like banks like Chase Bank to get a mortgage, and I'm like, JP, you got to talk to Community First Bank, that kind of thing. But what he's saying is a lot of brokers. So let me ask you guys: are you guys having, when you guys are meeting with brokers, are you guys having any pushback from brokers um, saying that I don't want to work with you because you quote unquote don't have a portfolio, or you have not purchased in the past, or has that been a difficult hump to get over for anybody, or maybe it's just JP. I don't know. Is that a hurdle that anybody is, or a road bump anybody's having to deal with?
I'll chime in here.
Yeah.
I have not had that problem, and I think it might have to do with the fact that when I've introduced myself to these brokers, I say, "Look, I'm part of a uh, commercial real estate consortium, partnership group, whatever you want to call it, out of Birmingham, and we've got about a dozen properties, and so I don't tie myself personally to it, but I say I'm a part of a group that's doing that.
Good.
And here's our buy box. Here's what we're looking to do. And if the numbers make sense, we're going to put an LOI on it. So let's keep going."
Love it.
And that usually gets their attention. And I've never had a problem with that. So maybe that's the way to rephrase it. Worked for me.
Man, Richard, I think that's exactly what is needed to be said, and I can probably tell JP that that's what I mentioned to him too. Is we're part of a group that purchases commercial real estate. We've already got a dozen or so properties, that kind of thing. That usually gets the guy's attention. Maybe he's just, if he was on here, I'd say the same thing to him. So like I'm talking behind his back. But I wonder if maybe, I was talking to Zane about it yesterday, if maybe I could create just like a one pager that just says, hey, here's who Nolan Sambrin is. This is what the collective is. This is the ownership as of today. This is how we buy property. And then that way, if you do come up to a challenging broker, or somebody does question your competency or what we do as a group, you can have that in your back pocket as kind of the ace up your sleeve, as just a way to get over that hump. If you came up, I would also recommend not working with a broker that's a jerk like that. That's not a lot of fun to hang out with those people. But that I just wanted that was a circumstance that JP is in, and if anybody else was having that issue, I want to provide that to everybody so that they can get over that hump. Zane, you have a thought on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just like offering more credibility. A lot of times
Yeah.
the buyer, or sorry, the sellers will, and I guess maybe the brokers will require some kind of proof of funds or some kind of like letter from the bank, like we've been talking about recently. But this might be a good way to show like they've actually done this before. This group is actually serious about what they say they're serious about. And you can see here like all of our properties in our portfolio.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a good little piece of credibility.
I
Yeah.
agree with both of those. And so I think that would be helpful, that idea you just mentioned, Nolan. But to Zane's point, that's what I'm running into now. Is I've worked with one broker here locally that we've had to back out of a couple of deals, not because of funding, but that certainly would have helped had we come to the table and said, hey, we've already got this particular property pre-approved. And so I'm trying to work on that a little bit more on the front end to talk with the lenders. Matter of fact, I'm working with Ryan Blackenberg on a couple of deals right now.
Excellent.
And he's been very helpful. So I want to be able to come to when we offer an LOI, we can say, hey, and by the way, we're already good to go. So we just need to go through due diligence or whatever. But I like both of those ideas.
Okay. Well, I'll
Hey,
work on kind of just creating that pager over the weekend, and then just share it with everyone on school. That way you guys can just download the PDF kind of, or I'll send it to Zane and we can put it in everyone's onboarding folder so y'all can all have it. And just know you can have it in your back pocket whenever, that circumstance does come up. Then you've got kind of a way out, or at least a way to keep moving the ball forward. Because I don't think that was an issue, but again, I wouldn't want to work with brokers that, are higher and mighty than me. But I don't really know. I mean, I don't know what JP's circumstance was, but that's where my head was. I want to just see if I can help him move a little bit further. So maybe it could help somebody else too. So that's where we're at.
hey, Noel, can I just ask a quick follow-up question on that real quick?
Yeah, man, of course.
So you mentioned that a lot of the properties you have, you also have for sale at a low cap, because you never know, right? Just out of curiosity, I mean, like obviously, you've done a cost seg, you've taken that depreciation. If you were to sell it, you're going to have a depreciation recapture event take place. So do you typically, if you sell those, are you planning to do a 1031 or what are you planning to do on those to not have that depreciation recapture?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that if you 1031, in a 1031 for those that are still working it, it's a tax defer strategy. You just identify a property, you have a mediary where at closing, the profits of the property go to the third party. So if
Right.
you bought a building for $1 million and you sold it for 2 million, you have $1 million profit. That $1 million doesn't go into your pocket. It goes into a third party mediator. You as the investor now have 180 days to go and close. You have like 45 days to identify another site, or maybe it's 90 days to identify a site, and then 90 more days, or 180 days total to close on that next property. The mediary goes and takes your funds of $1 million and takes it to the next title company to close, and then you don't pay capital gains on that tax. You don't pay capital gains tax on what you earned in the previous transaction. So that's a 1031 exchange. But what Eric just mentioned as well, which is another big key, is you do have to recapture depreciation that you've taken. So when you take bonus depreciation now, look at for those that will be at the event here in a couple of months, Clay Hagler, our accountant, will go over depreciation, and he'll go over bonus depreciation, and depreciation recapture in very, very big detail to where you can understand it always makes mathematical sense to take the depreciation, even if you have to recapture it in the future. So just know the rule of thumb is you always take the depreciation, even if you sell it and 30 days later, the recapture tax is essentially like a long-term capital gains. It's like 20%. So if you bought $1 million building, you took 250 of depreciation, and then in the future, you have to basically pay 20% of the 250 that you took. So that's whatever that is, $40,000. Is that what 20% is of 250? I went to public school here. I don't know, whatever the number is right there. So you basically only pay a percentage of depreciation recapture. And again, I'm not an accountant. You need to listen to Clay on that, but that's in my understanding. But also, if you do 1031 a property, you can also defer the recapture as well into you, or you can kick that depreciation recapture price tag down the road as well.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was wondering. Is that what you're planning to do if you
yes,
sell? Is just do 1031s? Okay.
yes, and on top of that too, Eric, if you want to get froggy and Google just reverse 1031, it's nothing more. It's the same exact strategy I just described, but a reverse is instead of you selling the property and then go finding a deal, you actually identify the property before you actually close on your property.
Oh,
So so it doesn't really change the timeline of anything. It just allows you to not be backed into a corner and let the tax tail wag the dog when you got to go and identify a site because you only got 14 days left, and then you back yourself into a bad deal because you much rather just buy something than you much rather buy something than pay the tax. And then that's where those deals that Rigel's looking at right now, where they just become attractive because you're like, I'd
right,
rather just buy a six cap than pay 150,000 in tax.
right.
So that's where
Exactly.
that circumstance would come in where Rigel, if I was in somebody's shoes where I was backed into a corner, I would just identify a six cap because I'd much rather just buy something, and even if it's overpriced, than end up just not getting anything for it and paying the tax. You see what I'm saying? So that's where those circumstances can come into play. But
Okay,
to
cool.
answer Derek's question, you can you do recapture depreciation, but if you 1031, you can kick that depreciation recapture down the road. And then, of course, when you happen to pass away in 75 years, all of those taxes that you've deferred actually go away. They literally are wiped clean. Your building's value is stepped up in the basis, and whatever it's valued at that day becomes the floor for your children or the trustees of your trust or the
Perfect.
beneficiaries of your trust. So that's where it can get like really cool. So if you can also Google just buy, borrow, and die. That's kind of what, the Robert Kiyosaki's and all those cats are today. Basically, you buy something, you borrow money over time, you pay it back if you want to, you keep borrowing more money. And then when you pass away, the value of your building goes from whatever it was when you purchased it to what it is today. And then if your kids sell it the very next day, they pay no capital gains tax. It's a pretty sweet little game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Just a thought there. Yeah, 100%.
Hey,
What else?
Nolan, I got a deal I need to run past you.
What's that, Richard? Go ahead.
I got a deal I need to run past you if we've got time.
Oh man, this is it. We got plenty of time. Yeah, of
So
course.
this one's right down the street from you. I'd love to partner with you on this one.
Oh, really? All right. Yeah. Where is it?
It's 200 4th Street.
204th Street. You want to just pull it up here? Let's just see. Let's see where we're at here. Let's just go and it's 204th Street, you said?
204th Street. There you
North or west or where?
go. West in the Ham.
Right here. 28,000 feet.
Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah,
lease
I
just
looked at
got
this site. I've looked at this site. I've been here.
okay. Tell me what you know
The
about it.
building
Good,
is
bad, or
actually not a bad building. It's a little further west than what, because I looked at this site before and I like the building. The building looks like it has strong bones. And the neighbor next door to it, I mean, again, I mean, it looks pretty decent. It looks like a nice warehouse. Because like I said, I looked at this probably, like I said, I don't know. This is
when did
probably,
you look at it? You remember?
I mean, probably last summer, I think.
Okay.
Um, But
All
I
right.
remember like getting my eyes on this somehow, and I was like, dude, this is actually a decent building because I've got something probably a mile east of this area, this location, and
Hmm.
you got a decent street right here. The kicker is it's a little far west. And not to mention too, right across the street, you've got a bunch of apartments. And so I wouldn't
Okay.
say that it's like ghetto or it's like the apartments are actually pretty nice. You just got you just have an opportunity for loitering. You have an opportunity for, in my opinion, I'd say theft. There's just there's just people around. You know what I'm saying? There's just
Okay.
people get bored. What am I going to go do? Let me go throw a couple rocks at this building. Oh, this guy's moving in, or hey, it's vacant. I wonder what's in there. You just, I don't know.
Okay.
That's been my observation. Like I said, when I talked to my broker Sam about it, and maybe I don't know if Sam sent it to you or whoever, this building
Yeah.
right here is in good shape too, but they've got like serious security. Um, I'd recommend if you were consider because I was like the price on it's pretty good. I think maybe they're asking like $1 million, maybe.
It's higher now. They're asking 1.7.
Oh shit,
Yeah, it was one
that
four,
feels
and it
way
popped up.
overpriced.
They just offered it at 1.7. They were gonna. They told us originally it was gonna be 1.4, but they just got a new tenant signed a 5-year lease.
Oh, so they do have it
Uh,
signed up. Okay, well that's good, Nid. Okay,
yep, just got a signed lease. At basically $5.50. That's 12.8 rent a month.
who's the tenant?
Um, I don't that I'm waiting on that. My broker's trying to get that right now. We're trying to get tenant information and the lease copy of the lease.
Sweet.
So that the asking cap is at 9%, a little over 9. I run the numbers. We could go 1.4, 1.5, somewhere in that neighborhood, and still be okay if we can get them to do seller financing. Otherwise, we'd have to drop the price to
Well, yeah, if you
to the
got a guy in there already, then I'd go in it with you. I'd do it with you.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
My,
here's
my
the
concern
thing.
was just buying something vacant and trying to lease it up
No,
right there because I just
no, no,
didn't.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But the
so they
building
just
has
signed them.
good bones. The building has good bones.
Well, I talked to Ryan Blackenberg about it already. He said he liked the location. He said they've actually done some improvements on the buildings. He on the building. He's evidently familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I told him that I may bounce it off of you, see what you thought, because I know you
Okay.
know the area a lot better than I do. And so um, so
Sweet.
that's kind of where we're coming in, probably 1.4, 1.5, maybe in that neighborhood. Originally,
Yeah, this is an old
the
photo.
seller said that might be a little too low, but I think he's going to be. God, that's an old picture. I think. I hope.
Yeah, that's from 2019.
Yeah. So they've done some work on it since then.
Yeah. No,
Um,
when I saw it last year, it looked like a newer building. I was like, this is a nice site. Yeah, this is dated. This is not what it is today.
yeah, the one you had up a minute ago, I think, is a little more current.
Yeah,
Um,
so there's a motel. I want to say there's just like There's like some apartments somewhere too. They might have knocked this down. They might have knocked that down. I don't know. It just
Well, when you're out and about, do a drive-by. Give me your
I
thoughts.
will.
But
I will.
um,
Yeah.
I've even got my broker talking to their broker to set up a walkthrough.
Okay.
And so if you're doing another one and want to walk by there and see it, I don't mind coming over myself. But
Okay.
I'd like to see it at some point. But I just wanted to bounce it off you first, see if it was something of interest. Um,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
mean, if you
and
got a
so
5 year lease on it with a decent tenant, I mean, especially if it's a credit guy, I'll
mhm.
do this. And we can just make an offer to that dude and he leaves money in the deal. Absolutely, we'll do it. I'll do it. Especially if
Well,
Ryan's already about it, you know?
yeah, what I'm thinking is if you do have a chance to go by and see it, we can talk to the seller, see, work the magic on the seller financing component because that would
Sure.
be that'd be fun. And just a little side note about this lender list you guys have given to us, the CRE list of contacts. Ryan has been amazing. I also sent him a deal that I had down in Selma, Alabama. I sent him three deals to take a look at, and he called me. This was a couple nights ago after hours and said, "Dude, can I talk to you about this Selma?" Because I didn't know this. He's from Selma,
Yep.
and he goes, "Nope, I don't want you to walk away. I want you to run away from this deal." And so
Wow.
he said, "Everybody that I know is leaving Selma." And I already told my broker when he sent it to me, "This is off the beaten path. This is not really fitting our buy box," and he knew that because it was too far off the interstate and all that other stuff. But the other numbers look good. I mean, it's offering at like 11 or 12% cap, and there's a reason for that. And he said, yeah, there's a tenant in it now that's already decided to sign up for another 4 years. They've got 2 more years left on the current lease. But he said by the time they get out of there, this property will be worth half what it's worth now. So get out. So anyway, I
Wow.
just wanted that's an advertisement for
Yeah.
developing relationships with the lenders. Um, and that was very helpful. So that helped me save a lot of time and effort.
That's great. Yeah, Ryan's awesome. He truly is like an investor banker, if that makes sense. Like I don't think he owns anything, but just he's on the
That's how
lookout for you. Yeah, he's on the lookout for, his partners, like his investors like us. That's pretty cool. I'd be happy to go take a peek at that with you, man. That'd be great. Yeah. I didn't realize there was a
I'll
tenant.
loop you in.
So
Yeah, I'll loop you in when I get the tenant and the lease information,
yeah,
and
please do.
we'll take it one step at a time, see if it's worth
Cool.
it or not.
That
Thank you.
sounds great. Yeah, awesome. All right, what's next? What's happening to everyone else?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Uh, I was looking at a property, and my question was if a person is willing to leave money in the deal, like the down payment, does that warrant paying a little more than the vacant offer on a price? And if not, why not? Because it seems like if you're not having to put, say, $500,000 down on the property that you would for the down payment, you'd have more money to carry the costs if the property was vacant. This is a vacant property, by the way. Yeah.
So basically saying that so it sounds like maybe like a $2 million building. You're saying make the full price offer if the guy's leaving money in the deal.
No, the full price was they were asking 2.3, and um I haven't gotten as far as they haven't said they would leave money in the deal, but if they were to leave the down payment in the deal, which would be around $500,000, they also stated that they may be willing to rent out a portion of the building um, for a year or two, which would alleviate some of the vacant. I mean, it wouldn't be all the way vacant. So I'm just saying, if the building needs no repairs and you have the carry cost of the mortgage payment and the leasing once it does get leased, does that warrant paying a little bit more than the vacant offer on a property?
Uh, One question I'd say I'd ask first is if you buy this property from this user, whoever this guy is, and he says, "Hey, we'll lease it back from you for 2 years," right?
Mhm.
Hypothetically. Do you think that the profits from the sale will be what is paying you the rent, or is it from their business profits? Because that's one thing I'd consider is if they're like, hey, yeah, we'll stay in there for a couple of years and they don't have any income otherwise, then in my book it's a little sketchy. It does alleviate maybe a little bit of mortgage pressure, but I would prefer the tenant to have income from their business venture, not based on just the sale of the building. But I mean, a gun to my head, man, I'd still I'd stick to my guns on like just because I think the goal, the vacant offer calculator, the whole point of that, I'll pull it up just so we're all on the same page. The vacant offer calculator, it's right here, is the whole point of this is to be in the deal when it's completely, totally leased up at 70% of its intrinsic value. Now, do you remember why? This is for everyone. Do we know why we want to be all in at 70% of its intrinsic value? Anybody got an idea?
I mean, I would just probably guess this has something to do with refinancing after you get it all leased up and everything.
I mean, that's right. I mean, that's exactly all it is. Is if you can be at 70%, if it's $1 million, or in this case, it's a $2 million building, and you can be all in after leasing commissions. Sounds like the building's in pretty good shape, so there's not a whole lot of a whole lot of remodeling to do, and maybe some interest carry. You could be all in at $1.5 million, but the value is 2 million. Even with the guy leaving money in the deal, you can get a brand new mortgage for 1.5 and pay everybody your first and your second mortgage off, and you still own the building for no money out of your pocket. To me, that is the game. Because then you can again, your first position mortgage is going to be your bank, but then you can just get a new mortgage that pays off your second position to get into the deal in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm making sense. So think about it this way. On a $2 million deal, I wish I could pull this thing up and maybe I could.
Okay, we do it on, I mean, this property, they're selling it for 2.3, but they had an appraisal that it was worth 2.6 million. And then, you know, I was thinking about offering 2.15 million if they left money in the deal.
I mean, again, it's I have a different opinion on like appraisals. I mean, the appraisal is really more for is a banking function. It's a banking instrument in my book. An appraisal at the end of the day, that guy's going to continue to get called because he gets the answer that the bank and the buyer and the seller all need. I mean, when was the last time we ever looked at an appraisal really that wasn't a refinance? That wasn't like, oh, the buyer and the seller agreed on the house worthing $300,000 and the appraisal comes back at like $305,000. Like that's what appraisers do is they just kind of run some numbers and they just like make sure it's around whatever the purchase price is or what the buyer and the seller have agreed on. So I'm not disagreeing that like the building might be worth 2.6, but I wonder that's what its value when it's leased up. Would that be all right at a market cap rate? I mean, how many square feet is it?
It's 20,000 square feet. I believe it's the owner tenant that's in there, so I doubt they were paying market rent prices.
I mean, I'm just trying to think. So 20,000 square feet times, let's say even $8, $8 a foot is $160,000 a year. If I did divide that by 0.08 market cap rate, that's $2 million. So what do you think the market, I mean, if the market cap rate's 8%, which is still pretty aggressive, it's, you're going to have to get that building to be, leased at $10 a foot. Yeah, it's going to have to be leased at $10 a square foot in order to 200 grand.
The broker was thinking
Yeah.
that $11 a square foot for this property would be a good number.
I mean, of course it is. I mean, $11 a square foot gets you $220,000 a year at income, and then you divide that by 0.08. That gets you a $2.75 million valuation, which maybe that's right, maybe it's not. It's probably where he's probably looking at a market cap rate of 0.85, right? Or 8.5%. Gets you roughly to 2.6 million bucks. So if it's at $11 a foot, my thought is make the offer based on what the current cash flow is. I mean, isn't that like the fairest way of like purchasing a property? Like that's the way I look at it. I mean, if it's vacant, well then you got to make the vacant offer. But if it's occupied by the owner user, we'll say, show me what the lease is. Show me the lease, and I'll make an offer based on the lease, off the cash flow.
Okay.
Like, I feel like that's pretty fair. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. That's the way that I would go on it. If I'm just being like, again, straight to the shooting from the hip.
Yeah, well, they were making it sound like they'd be willing to rent, like, I mean, the way the building's set up, I can show you what it looks like. So, I mean, you could probably have two tenants in there if you wanted to, but were saying they'd be willing to lease back like 3 to 4 thousand square foot of the building. It's like a vitamin company, a health company. They sell vitamins. Um, so I don't know. You could either keep them in there in just that area and then lease out the rest, or just lease out the whole building once you find somebody if they want the whole building.
Then here's what I think you do. Give them the illusion of choice. And this is where Zane can come into play with that multiple offer calculator or multiple offer doc that we have. Have you seen that before, Joey?
I have, yes.
Okay. That's what to me feels like the best move here. You can say, look, seller, you lease it up. You pay the leasing commissions. I'll make you that full price offer that you're asking. You leave money in the deal, you save money in taxes. We'll do it that way. Or you sell it to me for vacant. I'm the one that takes on the risk, but you give me a discount. They can't have their cake and eat it.
I got you. Okay.
Like that to me would be very fair. Um, I mean that's what I mean, Zane's done that. We've done that multiple times with guys, and then they give them the illusion of choice. So they don't really think there's a third option of like their idea. But you can say, hey, look, you
Right.
can do it this way. I'll make you a vacant offer, or and I'll take on the risk of leasing it up, but you got to give me a discount on the price, or you go lease it up. You pay the leasing commissions, you pay the holding costs, and then when you do it all, I'll verify that the leases check out at market price, and then I'll buy it for that price that you're asking.
I got you.
I feel like that's just a very, very fair way of, coming together on terms, Because then you're not the one getting screwed. You're not the one taking, like, it's not fair for you to take on a bunch of risk and overpay. Like, that's unfair to you,
Right.
you know? So I appreciate the deal hungriness. I would not force something like that if these guys aren't willing to tango with you, you
Yeah.
know?
The other interesting thing about it is that the size of the property is actually like twice the size of, like, you could put a whole another building on the property, and it's a 20,000 square foot building. Now, I don't know what all the why they didn't build out that area. There could be reasons why, but it's a good sized piece of land as well.
Wow. I mean, maybe that's where the opportunity for you to come into play is like say, hey, maybe get a quote from somebody that says, hey, what would it cost to develop another 10,000 feet over here? And maybe someone says it's going to run you 160 bucks a foot, and you just price it in there, and you get a couple of debt quotes and just figure it out. I mean, I say the same thing is I'm always buying buildings based on the cash flow, not because I'm a martyr, but because I got to go shop debt on this. And if I'm going to shop debt, the bank is looking at the lease. They're looking at the tenant. They're looking at how predictable is the future rental income. Like that's the way the bank's thinking. So I try and go into it thinking the same way, knowing I have opportunities to improve the site again by maybe increasing market rent or rents up to market, maybe developing a site on the existing parcel, like doing different things like adding value to the property. But man, I'm going into those deals as a conservative because my bank's conservative, and they're the ones that are going to give me the majority of the money to close, you know. So that's the way that I've tried to think about it, and that's what I'd recommend for you too.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Who else? What else is happening?
I have a question for Richard. I'm curious if that property in Selma was 141 Felix.
On mute,
You're on
Richard.
mute.
Yes, it was. Have you looked
Okay.
at it as well?
I
Matt?
did, yeah. It's like 11% cap rate. I actually made an offer on it just for kicks and giggles, and He wants he actually doesn't want seller carry
No.
in second position, but he was willing to do a first position loan. And but if I'm glad I jumped in, I was late to the meeting, but I'm glad I jumped in when I did because don't walk, run from Selma is an interesting thing. And Nolan, that sparks an idea. Like, can we have some sessions where we do market study strategies? Because I'm not looking in, Alabama. I'm looking in different markets, and I would love the collaborative effort to go, okay, what do we like about a market? How do we do it without doing a $300 Crexy subscription and all of that? How can we educate ourselves on what a good market is and why we would or would not buy there?
I think that's a great idea. Zane, you want to write that down just as like I can even have a broker come on here and give us his opinion on, just hey, what makes a good market, what makes a bad market, emerging markets, all that kind of stuff that goes into that. I mean, that's if that would benefit, I mean, I can have somebody on here on the next call. I think it'd be great. That's a great idea.
I'd love it. I mean, I'm sure again, my approach is looking for things that are 8 to 9 cap and then offering over 10 cap on them. But if there's a reason that they're listed at such a high cap rate, so I want to make sure I don't jump in on something and get into a market that's on the decline, or don't, if that is the reason. And I not really able to comp on other cap rates at this point. In that market. So anything we can do that would help us understand that better, that'd be great.
I think that's great. Yeah, well, we can definitely I got a couple of brokers in mind already that I can have on here. I think it'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
The other question I had for you was in that scenario where you're buying unleased 70%. I think you're just typically using your bank, but there are bridge loan, private lenders. They're a little more expensive. What would you say the pros and cons? I mean, if you're just using your bank, are you jumping through a lot of hoops to get a loan that you're just going to refinance out in a year? And what are those points like when you do that approach?
Um, I the way that I've done it in the I'm actually about to do it right now on one of my buildings in Leeds. I think it's kind of like I was saying last week. I'm wildly transparent out of the gate with my lender on what my game plan is. So I say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And I say I'm planning to, refinance, a new mortgage. And even if there are points, they can just wrap that into the debt anyway. And what I'm usually doing too, Matt, is I'm actually doing this right now in a refinance, buying out some partners. I might have mentioned that a week ago. But what I'm doing is borrowing more money in that circumstance, and then I'm buying the rate down. So my interest rate, I'm paying like on this one refinance, I'm borrowing another like 220,000 bucks or something. Depends on like, I guess they're a couple of points. But I think my total cost is not even that much money. I think it's like $5,000 like a banking fee cost for that they can wrap into the mortgage. But then I'm buying the interest rate down 200 basis points for $20,000 that they're wrapping into the mortgage. So I was going to borrow like if I was just going to borrow 190,000 bucks, which is what I'm buying my partners out for, the global amount of money I'm going to borrow is like 220,000 bucks, but my mortgage payment is only going to go up like $92 a month for where I'm currently at. And then I just totally removed, I got 50% equity more in a building and 50% more depreciation now than I would have had otherwise. And now all of that cash flow is flowing towards me versus somebody else. So I look at, and I just told my banker exactly what I'm going to do. And I'll be honest, I didn't think much about the points. I didn't think really about the cost because I can just wrap that into the mortgage and then buy the rate down. So it doesn't end up being that expensive.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay.
That Does anybody have a question on that or like kind of my thought process behind that or if someone else is doing something similar or different? Cool. Yeah, that's just another way when you do get into the refinance, like just trying to move the needle back and forth and just figure out. But I think just the transparency with your lender, your game plan, and I think just take a step forward or back before that too. That's where why having that proposal for financing that you submit to your lender and make an offer to him is so important. Having a game plan on what you're going to do with the site. Again, it gives it forces you as the investor to come up with a good strategy on what you're going to do. It forces us to articulate our strategy, and then on the most important piece, then we have to go out there and execute on it. So I think, and then when you do all those three things, you have an idea, you articulate it, and then you go execute it in your timeline that you gave to the banker in the first place. You've just become so much more bankable than maybe all their other borrowers because you actually did what you said you were going to do. And then that's where maybe the transparency at the very beginning ends up just paying massive dividends as you develop the relationship with bankers, kind of like what Richard was mentioning with Ryan a minute ago. That makes sense. What's next? What else? Who else has something as we're moving forward? I apologize again, back and forth. I've been moving the days around, not on purpose. I'm trying to uh, get everything kind of going on like a Thursday afternoon for us consistently, because we're about to have another baby, and it's just going to really my timing on stuff is going to be all over the map. So I'm trying my to some have some consistency in my schedule before my wife wants to throw me out over a bridge or something. But so that won't be for another 3 or 4 weeks, but we're not changing our weekly calls. So just know that we'll be dialing in every week. So
I got
yeah,
one quick question.
yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yep. So the proposal for financing document, should that be done, after you already have a contract, like during due diligence, or like I know Richard was talking about maybe trying to work on some of that on the front end, um, to, send that to, some lenders and get some feedback, before maybe you even have a signed LOI or, purchase agreement.
Yeah, I mean, trying to think. I like to. I usually have so I say this. I'm thinking about my circumstances are maybe a little different than yours. What I would recommend you doing in your shoes is if you have a deal and you say we've just submitted an LOI on this, and you don't even have it under contract yet, but you're working it, right?
Right.
I think one, it gives you practice to create the proposal for financing. I think it's good practice. It's reps in the cage. I think that's important. Articulating again what your game plan is, how you're going to improve the site, increase the value, get a long-term tenant, whatever the circumstances on the deal. But also, I think another thing is too, I've never bothered my banker by sending him a deal. Like, I'm not, if I send him something I'm looking at, he's going to respond and be like, I understand which banks have certain appetites at this point, but if I've got something on my mind, they never are like, stop bothering me. They're always like, well, what's on, what's the sitch? Like, what's going on? They want to be in the know. You're not bothering them. Like, they need us. They need us as borrowers. Like that's how they make money. So I'd say this, I think it gives you good reps to just create the proposal for financing, just having a good template where you can, just make a couple of words and phrases in there malleable where you can change the address and do that kind of thing. But then when you've got a LOI that you're saying, this is what we're submitting, this is what the game plan is, you know, does this fit into y'all's banking appetite? And if it does, let's get on a call in 2 more days and go over, um, you know, what terms you'd like to offer. And at that point, then I mean, who says no to that? Who says
Right.
no to? And then, of course, if something goes through, the deal falls apart. Well, then whatever. The banker got his eyes on something. He'll be like, hey, we're interested in that. That sounds pretty good. When you go, so it gives you an idea. Okay, that's the type of deal that guy's looking for. I can go and find more buildings like that, and I know I've got a debt partner on it. So it develops. And thirdly, finally, I'll get off my high horse, but off my soapbox here, but it proves to that banker, even though he hadn't lent you a dime yet, that you know what you're doing.
Right.
Like you haven't done anything other than just prove that you know a thing or two about making good offers on good property. And nobody's doing proposal for finances, man. Nobody's doing those. Everyone's asking the bank for money. When you offer them something, they're like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. And it
Yeah.
just solidifies it where you do have that deal. Then they know that you're shopping it around. They're in competition. Now they need you. They're calling you. It's kind of like this reverse psychology, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I like that idea. It seems like every time I submit an LOI, I get a little bit further in the process and it's uncharted territory. So, I feel more comfortable. So I think next time I am ready to submit an LOI, I will, I'll do that.
I think you absolutely do it. And like you said, it's a new little uncharted territory, new uncharted waters. But then you do it once or twice, and you're like, okay, I see how this guy's going to respond to this. And then you guys start to get a little closer, and you've shuffled the deck to where you're both on the same page on deals. And then when that deal pops up, he's going to give you a term sheet almost immediately. You know, so
Yeah, appreciate it.
yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Anyone else? Anybody else? All right. Well, we'll get out of here a few more minutes early today. Again, anybody has thoughts or questions, like I said, what we'll start doing is I'm going to work over the weekend on just that one pager for everybody. So again, if a broker is feeling froggy and they think they're higher and mighty than thou, then you guys can share that one pager of like what you're a part of, what we have, what we're buying, and maybe that will cool that guy's jets and move a ball down the field a little bit. And then also just with debt partners too, you can share that as well. So. Just for baseball reference, give you guys a stand-up double, put you in scoring position versus having a battle at the plate. So anything that we can do for you guys, we're working it. Zane and I we're in the office every day together. So if you have something that you're struggling with or questions or whatever, just let us know and we'll do what we can to ease the tension. So
Nolan, do you want to stay on and chat
I
as
can
we
give you a
discuss?
call. I'll just call you here in a
Okay.
second. Yeah, I'll just call
Okay.
you. Cool. All right.
I got one last question.
Yeah, Joey.
Yeah, if I missed the beginning of this call, so if I want to go back and watch this replay, how do I go about doing that?
Sure. So I'll download this or I'll upload it on the Unlist on YouTube, and then I'll put this in the school tab or on school. It's in the classroom tab just from 2025 live calls. I'll just put today's date and what we talked about, and you'll just
All
see
right.
it right there, and you can rewatch it.
All right, thanks.
So yeah, of course. And I'll also just put it up on like the main kind of like dashboard as well, where you'll just see it like the most updated video. Cool. All right, everybody. Appreciate everyone making it on today. Keep it rolling. Let us know if we can do anything else for you. All right. All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks so much. Talk to you then. Thanks.